Deputy Chief Vigilance Officer, Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation of India Limited. A round of applause for our new panelists for the new session. I invite Ma'am Swagata Sen Roy, Senior Manager Corporate Planning and Marketing, Garden Reach Shipbuilders and Engineers Limited. A round of applause for Ma'am Swagata Sen Roy, and we invite you on stage. Now I invite the last speaker, the third speaker, Mr. Janardhan Verma, Chief Manager, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. So you are requested to join us on the stage. Now I hand over this session to our moderator, Mr. Vijender Singh, DCBO, Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation of India Limited, to continue with it.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This session, the topic is the role that the PSUs are playing in building infrastructure, transportation, telecom and IT station. Before commencing this session, first a brief introduction about myself. I am Vijender Singh, Deputy Chief Vigilance Officer in the Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation of India Limited, which is a PSU under the Ministry of Railways. I am 96th Batch Engineering Services Officer, presently posted on deputation. As we all are aware, our line capacities in the railways are filled to the maximum. More than 100% line capacity utilization is there. So the only option to augment the existing capacity was to separate the passengers traffic from the freight traffic. And that's the basic objective for construction of these specialized freight corridors. This is a JICA and World Bank funded project. At present, DFCCIL is constructing two corridors. One is Eastern Corridor, which is from Ludhiana to Calcutta. This is funded by the World Bank. And the second one is the Western Corridor, which is from Dadri near Delhi to JNPT in Mumbai. Some more corridors on the lines of the golden quadrilaters are also in the pipeline. The PAT survey is undergoing and they are also anticipated to be commencing soon. The total cost of these two corridors at present is anticipated around 1 lakh crores. The Western Corridor, which leads to Mumbai, will be having double stack containers, while the Eastern Corridor will be single stack container. Apart from the railway land, which is already, with the government of India, we had to acquire around 11,000 hectares of land for this purpose. This is, a small brief about what the DFCCIL is expected to carry out. So, before taking any further time, I would like to invite our esteemed speaker, Madam Swagata Sen Roy, Senior Manager, Corporate Planning and Marketing, Garden Reach Shipbuilders and Engineers Limited, to kindly address the august gathering. Please.
Very good afternoon, distinguished guests present in this august gathering, my colleagues on the dais, and ladies and gentlemen. I represent an organization called Garden Reach Shipbuilders and Engineers Limited, a very old organization, in fact set up way back in 1884 during the British Raj, and taken over by the Ministry of Defence in 1960. So we've completed 54 years of being a defence PSU. I'll take you through a short presentation on what this organization has been contributing to the nation as a manufacturer of warships for the defence sector, including the Indian Navy and the Indian Coast Guard. And a little connect with what the topic for the session today is, where we're talking of the role of infrastructure. There's been a good investment by this organization in terms of upgrading its infrastructure facilities to kind of come in line with the world-class shipyards and benchmarking its processes such that the build periods and the other aspects reduce. And that would be a slight focus of my presentation. Small snapshot about the organization, as I've already shared with you. It's been a very old organization, a profit-making PSU for the last 22 years, and we are a Mini Ratna Category 1 company. The first indigenous warship in the country, INS Ajay, was built by this organization in 1961, and so far we've been the organization which has delivered the highest number of warships and vessels to the nation. A small detail about the kind of warships that we make. Frigates, corvettes, primarily from a very generic perspective, are the high-end warships that are used for warfare. And then there are the mid-level vessels and patrol vessels, which primarily are a requirement with the coast guards of the nation. And just a small brief of some of the key projects that we have undertaken and delivered so far. This is a warship which is getting commissioned tomorrow. In fact, our entire senior management team is down in Vizag tomorrow for the commissioning of INS Komorta, which is happening in Vizag. So a small, it's in fact the first anti-submarine warship, anti-submarine warfare corvette, which has got delivered by GRDC to the Indian Navy in July, and it is getting commissioned tomorrow. As I've shared, the company's been on a growth path, so with the turnover and the net worth of the company being healthy. The company basically is into shipbuilding, with 90% of its revenues coming in from ship productions. Apart from which, we are the only shipbuilder in the, or I would say the Defence Public Sector Unit, which is into shipbuilding, having its own engineering and engine division as well. Coming to the products that we make, a small view of the kind of ships that we've delivered so far. As far as the engineering portfolio is concerned, we make portable bridges, which are primarily used by the Indian Army, the Public Roads Organization. In fact, GRDC happens to be in the Guinness Book of World Records for having built the highest steel bridge in the world, which was constructed, and it stands in Ladakh. We have our own deck machinery items, so wherein we become our own customers of deck items which are used in our own ships, as well as procured by the other shipyards of the country. As far as the engine division is concerned, we are primarily into assembly, testing and overhauling of machines in a tie-up with M2 Germany. Coming to, as I said, a little focus on infrastructure and kind of investments that the organization has undertaken, looking at the competitive environment setting in with private players coming in, where there is a level playing field with no more scope for getting orders of nomination, where we need to fight in absolutely at an equal pace with the private sector. snapshot of the infrastructure of the docks. So the first step of the construction of a ship starts with the steel plates being cut. So that's the first shop where the whole process of a ship begins. And then the hull of the ship is fabricated, and we go on with the key laying and the launching and the delivery of a ship. So this is the jetty. We have aerial view to display the unit. This is one of the, just to share, we have about 7 production units, including the deck machinery as well as the engineering unit. And this particular yard, the picture which is currently reflecting on the board, caters to the small ship requirements. Coming to the integrated shipbuilding facility or modernization which has happened in terms of the infrastructure that we have upgraded to, we were initially able to cater to, I'm not getting too much into the technicalities of what has gone into it, but broadly stating that we needed to improve on our build cycle in terms of, because a product cycle of a ship is pretty long. It takes about 4 to 6 years to build a large ship, and therefore to ensure that we are on time, ensuring completion and delivery and commissioning of a ship, the build period, any improvement in the build period and its cycle helps the shipyard deliver better. So recognizing this need, the organization went in for a major modernization of its infrastructure. Just to give a small comparative on where we were and where we are today in terms of the capacity. If you look at the first diagram, we had a capacity of, in this particular slipway, to take on only 900 tons, whereas once we modernized and went in, I have a small animation which will come in a little later to basically give, this is just the artistic impression which is reflected. This is, as we would term it, it was a brownfield project in the sense that we just improved upon what we already had in our existing infrastructure. So just a small snapshot of the construction which was under progress. And this is the view after the integrated shipbuilding facility was completed, where you had the dry docks, the inclined berth, and the Goliath crane and the module hall. So as I was just sharing that primarily what we needed to adopt was modern build strategy in comparison with what the best shipyards in the world practice, or even the other DPSUs which are into shipbuilding practice. We got into modular shipbuilding technology. By the term modular shipbuilding, what I would only like to convey is that we create blocks rather than smaller items, so that the fabrication and the integration happens in such a manner that pre-launch of a ship happens at a faster rate as compared to what happens post-launch. Because after post-launch, the ship goes into the water and it becomes difficult integrating the parts. So therefore, a reduction in build period and improvement in quality of construction. Just how the new modernized structure looks. We are the first shipyard in the country to have bagged an export order for the government of Republic of Mauritius, and we're delivering a offshore patrol vessel for them, which is scheduled for delivery around October this year. So that vessel got launched from this new modernized facility. And without getting into too much of the network which is displayed there, I would only like to share that yes, GRSE has been an organization, as we've been hearing from various organization heads the morning in terms of the importance that IT plays in the growth and in the efficiency of delivery of an organization. GRSE has not lagged back. We have SAP in place, we have our own employee portal, we have gone online with our vendor registration and our tenders. We are into e-procurement. Almost 90% of our procurement is happening through e-tendering. So we've got into the file tracking, going more into the paperless kind of an environment with file tracking and note sheet approvals online, reducing time in terms of approvals. So we are kind of on track. We have our own blog in our employee portal where employees can express their views, share, exchange ideas. We have our own intra-mail, and our units, in fact, our shipbuilding unit is the first shipbuilding unit which has got recognized and got accredited for the integrated management system in inculcating the OSAS, energy management and energy management. Apart from which, as I said, we have been into a benchmarking study, benchmarking ourselves with the best in the world in terms of the production processes that we undertake, which is kind of setting a mark as to where we need to move from here. Apart from which, the customer focus is very critical, and we get the customer surveys done through an external agency to avoid internal intervention and work upon the suggestions and the feedbacks which come in. And apart from which, of course, as an overall organization, in terms of MOU parameters, the organization has been doing very well for over the years. We've been rated excellent across the DPSUs. We've got our best ratings. We've been the best performing shipyard. So with all these points, I am sure we are also very confidently probably stating today that yes, PSUs do make a difference, and PSUs have the best skills available with them and the best talent available in the country with them, and there's nothing to stop PSUs competing with the private sector or doing even better than them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next and the last speaker of this session is Sri Janardhan Verma, Chief Manager, Hindustan Aeronautics. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Sitting on the dais and dignitary sitting in the audience. I am from HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. It is not in the general public service, it is indirectly related to general public service. So, people may be knowing, but many people doesn't know about it. So, I will give the history of it. This company was founded in 1940 in British Raj by Balchand Veerachand. And after independence of India, it was taken over by government of India, and slowly it progressed. At present, it has 20 production bases at different parts of the country and 11 research centers. Total 31 centers. In our legacy, we have developed so far 15 types of aircraft, our own design and development. Very few people know this fact, and they have done quite a good job. Even in 1971 war, the net fighter which was used by Indian Air Force, which was very successful mission completed, it was developed by HAL. So it's HAL has a very good glory, and at present also it's doing good, designing many aircraft like LCA, ALH, HTT, 40 and etc. And we are simultaneously we are fulfilling our requirement of Indian Air Force by taking technology from Western as well as Russian and manufacturing those aircraft. Like at present, like we are manufacturing Sukhoi, and also modernizing our old aircraft like Jaguar, MiG, etc. we like to mention one more thing here, that none of us here sitting will like to drive our own car manufactured in 70. But Indian Air Force is still flying MiG-21 aircraft, those are manufactured in 70. And that with support of HA. It is possible only with support of HA. Now, in the entire world, neither MiG-21 is being flown, nor Jaguar is being flown other than India. And it's because of our HA. So these are all a little bit history. What we are doing at present is, we are in for future, we are developing fifth generation fighter aircraft, FGFA, with Rosenbrown, Russia and HA. It's a co-production, co-development program, and it is scheduled to be in operation by 2021. So it is being developed. Another program which is coming for India is the license production is MMRC, medium multi-role fighter aircraft. So it is with a French company, Dassault, and it is being it may be operational in Indian Air Force by 2017-18. This technology is being set up in India. It will be under TOT, transfer of technology. As far as this business support is concerned, we are having ERP in place around resource management. We are having e-commerce for our e-tendering. We are already in place, we are doing job. Also, we are using our type of organization for our induction of management training through outsourcing. So we are using a lot of process, e-governance we are using. Also, we are using e-governance for our HR practices, lot of things, which is giving our help. In this way, last year in the previous budget, our balance sheet, we have shown that with ERP we have increased our profit by about more than 50 crore by implementation of only ERP system. So this is what a brief of HL. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. This session has come towards the end very quickly, being a very short session. So at the end of the session, I would like to have any questions from the audience if there. Thank you very much. Thank you for the cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for a short but a very knowledgeful, session with full of knowledge. Thank you very much. Now I request Vijender Singh Saab to present mementos to our eminent speakers. Firstly to Ma'am Swagata Singh Roy, Senior Manager, Corporate Planning and Marketing, Garden Reach Shipbuilders and Engineers Limited. A round of applause for Madam Roy. Then we have Mr. Janardhan Verma with us, Chief Manager, HAL. I request Ma'am Swagata to present a memento to Sir Vijender Singh Saab, Deputy Chief Vigilance Officer, Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation Limited. A round of applause for our eminent speakers. Now we'll break for tea for 10 minutes, and then I request all of you to come back for the final session.